Welcome to Midlife Reclaimed, the podcast for women ready to navigate midlife with more clarity, compassion, and energy. I'm Shannon A. Swales, psychologist, writer, doggy mama, and midlife woman walking this path alongside you. Twice a month, we explore real stories, expert insights, and practical tools to help you move through chronic stress, overwhelm, and burnout so you can reclaim your voice, your boundaries, and your joy. Please remember what you hear here is general information, not a substitute for personal therapy. This isn't about midlife crisis, it's about midlife reclamation. So let's begin. Hi there, I'm Shannon A. Swales, your host, your producer, director, scriptwriter, everything in this podcast. Midlife Reclaimed, which is an absolute labor of love for me. Happy to be here today and delivering another solo episode on a topic that comes up again and again in my work with midlife women and in my own personal life way before my midlife, but it really came to a crunch in my midlife, which is dealing with the shoulds. Those internal expectations that we carry, those rules that we have inherited from God knows where, and that inner voice that says, I should be able to cope better. I shouldn't be so tired or stressed. I should be able to do it all. Midlife women aren't burnt out because they're failing or they're not able to cope or resilient enough. They are burnt out because they believe or have been told to believe that they should be able to carry it all. So in this episode, I want to gently explore what are these shoulds, where do they come from, how they keep us overextended, and how we might begin to letting them soften without it tipping into guilt or sense of selfishness or taking away from those things that matter to you. So grab your cuppa, whatever it might be, or wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Let's dive into getting to know the shoulds. So what do we mean by shoulds? So when I'm talking about shoulds, which I do very often in my practice, working with midlife women inside my online community, Midlife Reclaimed, but also one-on-one in therapy as well. I'm not talking about preferences or values, but internalized expectations that often are hidden from our consciousness, so often not spoken, but still direct our behavior, our way of coping, our way of caring for others. They have a lot of influence as to our direction of what we think we should be able to do. So should sound like what I've mentioned a couple examples already, but let's explore a few others and let's dive into mine, especially before I totally burnt out. But even in my burnout recovery too, like I should be able to cope better. I'm a psychologist, I must be able to do this. How come I'm unwell? I should be able to care for everybody. I should be there for everybody. I should be a better partner. I think I've mentioned I should be able to cope better. There were so many shoulds, like I should be on top of it all. I should be able to keep a clean house. I should be able to get up and be able to do the washing up right now. I can't even just do the washing up. I want you to take a minute, maybe even press pause and locate a couple of your shoulds if they haven't come up already. Did you press pause? And what shoulds did you come up with? I'm sure there were at least a couple, if not many. And don't be alarmed if there was many. We all have them. We've all experienced these insidious rules in our society about how we should behave, how we should cope, how we should be as a mother, how we should be as a psychologist, how we should be as a woman in this world, how we should live midlife. There's just so many if we sat down and noticed. But such an important step to do because, as I mentioned, often these go unspoken or unrecognized or hidden. Like they're happening, our thoughts are thinking it, we're having these thoughts, they are fueling our behavior, but often we don't step back and notice. So, this is a really important step that I often lead my midlife women that I'm working with through. And the tricky thing too is they're so embedded, so insidious that we treat them as truth. We don't even question them because it's just happening automatically, unconsciously, and we live by them. So if we don't bring into them awareness, we become a slave to them. Like, so for example, I should be able to cope because I'm a psychologist. So I continue to overextend myself to push through what my body was telling me, which was like, this is too much, but I wasn't listening. The really horrible thing about shoulds and why I'm banging on about these shoulds is they carry a moral weight. They judge us. They lead to internal criticism and shame and guilt when we're not living up to these expectations. So they're really quite dangerous to our psychological health. And whatever's dangerous to our psychological health will certainly permeate and impact other important health areas like our physical health, our social health, so our relational health, and also our spiritual health, our sense of meaning and purpose in this world. I mentioned earlier values and that they are distinct from shoulds. I want to share how that is. So, values tell us that something matters to us. So, for example, it matters to me to extend kindness and care, particularly to those I serve as a psychologist, but also my loved ones as well. But what shoulds imply is that I must do this at any cost. So values are flexible. They have us in mind as well. So I matter, you matter. So there's flexibility to it, whereas shoulds have a rigidity to it. There is black and white. We're either caring or we're not. Values are I do my best to extend care and kindness to others as well as myself. And as you can imagine, that rigidity of a should, like I should be caring at any cost, is exhausting and debilitating over time because you are only human. And that is beautiful, but that means you only have so much to give. You are not a constant ball of energy, and particularly in midlife, where we as women are going through a fundamental neuroendocrine change, perimenopause, menopause, that energy shift even comes more into importance because we don't have the help of estrogen and progesterone, the hormones that support in a lot of ways our energy. We are going through a shift that is making that harder. So these lessons are more important at this stage in life if we haven't learnt them already. I want to pause here and offer something deeply personal for anyone feeling depleted or stuck in stress, overwhelm, or burnout. My book, Nothing Left to Give, A Psychologist's Path Back from Burnout, shares my real-life story of hitting a wall in 2021. Burnout, compassion fatigue, and resurging mental health struggles that forced me to leave my work and rebuild from the ground up. It's not just a memoir, it's filled with practical tools and reflections to guide you towards rest, reclaim your sense of self, and resist that pressure of constant caring going outwards, perfectionism, people-pleasing, toxic independence, all of that. You can find this book both in ebook and paperback via Amazon, or just head to the show notes for the link, or shannonaswales.com/burnout-book for the links. And now let's get back to the episode. Which leads me into the next section, which is why shoulds matter in midlife for women particularly. So by this time in life, annoyingly, the shoulds ramp up because often there is more on our plate. Uh, a lot of midlife women, and not all, will be contending with things like still raising their children, and they might be young, they might be teenagers, tweens, they might be starting to autonomize and individuate and moving out of the home. And all of those stages of parenting come with their own particular transitions and potential challenges. So we're carrying that and the shoulds that come with that. We're also often in midlife might experiencing changes in our body. The one I mentioned before, perimenopause, menopause, going through that, but also often a lot of, if it hasn't happened already, a lot of signs of wear and tear, presentation of maybe illnesses and chronic illnesses showing up and flaring up. Uh, yeah, and there can be new illnesses as well because we've lived half a life or almost half a life. So, the body takes on and consumes a lot. So health-wise, we can be dealing with some stuff. And that makes me think like in my early 40s, started to notice a shift, which I didn't realize at the time was perimenopause, but it was impacting my ability to work out. And also, I mean, it was the time where I was burnt out as well. So my immune system, I was getting sick a lot. I also had an bone fracture, so my bone density decreasing. There was, yeah, just a personal example there that our health can be something going on in our careers, in our work. We might be holding a lot more responsibility there in senior positions because maybe we've worked ourselves up, or maybe we're even feeling a little bit more of a detachment out of it's no longer a fit, and maybe moving in a different direction. So we're dealing with that transition as well in our relationships, in those in partnerships, in marriages. That relationships are tough. I'm no expert in it. I'm just someone who's lived it. But there's certainly things going on there as well, that can be a load that we're carrying, and just the for a lot of women too, the ongoing mental and emotional load that tends to land on them in families as well, and that can be starting to take its toll. What else is going on in midlife? We could be our parents if they're still with you. Might be going through their own health declines and requiring more of you, and just what that brings on emotionally, mentally as well. And that tends to land on the woman as well. So yeah, there's just a lot going on, and I feel like I've missed something as well. I'm just going to check my notes. Yeah, identity questions too. It's quite normal in this period of life, in midlife, to sort of be reflecting intuitively, like it just sort of comes up on the life that we have had so far and on life from here. It's often something I notice and did myself. They believe it's because there's not a lot of research done in midlife. It's starting to get the attention it deserves now, as a stage of life, and what a lot of people go through, and this identity shifting. Some of the theories is like it's sort of a recognition or an understanding that, well, we've lived half our life, already, and there's this awareness of a time clock, and wanting, moving more towards a sense of meaning and purpose. So yeah, there's a lot that we're carrying, and so shoulds can amp up in this time if it's something. Everyone has shoulds, because we might be applying those unwritten rules and expectations through those shoulds with these different things that are happening. Like, I should be able to lift those weights that I normally could, or I should be able to go to gym still 5 days a week, or I should be able to have my shit all together, because that's what the rule book says. I often call it the rule book or the BS bullshit rule book that we've been given for life. You know, one of the rules, expectations I hear a lot of women say, and I did too, is that, or believed, you know, is that, you know, by 40, by midlife somewhere, we should have it all together. Yeah, well, I call bullshit because no, it is. Um, we're forever learning, we're forever growing. There is no such thing as having it all together, I don't believe. We just have moments of being more grounded, being more settled, and there's moments of upheaval. It's just part of the cycle of life. So anyway, shoulds amp up in this time because of that BS rule book and because we're going through so much. So there's a lot of shoulds that might come up in those very normal things that are, well, I say normal, things that are occurring. Not necessarily that they should be normal, like carrying the emotional and mental load of the household, but it is what is a lot of women's realities at the moment in our particularly Western culture. So I think I've made it clear that, you know, midlife, you know, isn't when expectations ease, but they really collide and create, I was going to say a perfect storm, but really not a perfect storm, a shit storm. So, you know, there's pressure to perform, to keep going, to give, to have it all together. Pressure, 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 because that's what these shoulds create. It creates this internalized pressure. And so where, you know, I mentioned earlier that, you know, it's really quite cultural. And it's culturally expected that we just keep striving, we keep giving, we keep sacrificing, we keep pushing through. The amount of women that I've heard, you know, just say, I've just got to keep going on, I've just got to keep pushing. The more we push, the less we get. Can't remember who that quote came from, but it's not my words, but the more we push, the less we get. And that is very, very true. But expectations lead us to push. And our culture has instilled these expectations and instilled that response of striving, keep going, keep giving, keep pushing, and you know, we'll eventually feel like we have it all together. But that's not how it works. So I want to spend a little bit of moments of how shoulds lead to chronic stress and burnout and look, a lot of not so great things because we know chronic stress and burnout is a chronic stress phenomena. Create a lot of havoc in our bodies. You know, while stress is helpful to a certain point, it can be motivating. When it's chronic and unrelenting and never lets up, it is dangerous to so many things. And I have a number of episodes where I've talked to burnout and chronic stress specifically, about the impacts on our bodies, on our lives, on our relationships. So go back to one of those to explore that. But, you know, when we're talking about chronic stress and burnout, not to treat it lightly, treat it seriously. It deserves it. And trust me, I've been there and, yeah, lived the consequences. So anyway. So, what makes shoulds particularly dangerous in this is that they override our limits as a human being. So, they keep us saying yes when our bodies are saying, hey, slow down, not great. They encourage us to push through despite the signals such as exhaustion or resentment or depletion. And they keep that nervous system stress response on constantly, which makes me think like we often think the danger comes from out here, and it does, but sometimes the danger comes from on here, in here, what has become instilled in here, because the shoulds are just thoughts that are built from expectations that we've inherited from out here. But we have choice. We don't have to listen to the shoulds. I'm not saying it's easy because we're going against maybe culture, maybe we're going against what we've learned in that rule book, but the cost is too great not to. But coming back, like it's interesting that a thought can be that dangerous when we continue to live by it. And it can, as a psychologist and a human being who has a thinking mind that says a lot of not so helpful things, I've lived it. I've seen it. Pay attention to our thoughts. And this is what's interesting too. One of the reasons why rest isn't enough and starting to like, and this happened for me, like when my body got pushed so badly that, and I wasn't listening, I was, I ended up not being able to work. I literally couldn't leave my house. I couldn't bear to be there. So it got to the point where my body spoke for me. But what was interesting is that, well, I started to, although it was hard, I started to do the actions of rest, the actions of recovery. So, and when I say rest, I don't mean just lying down and doing nothing. Sometimes it was, but it was also like nature rest or creativity rest or therapy, like not that that was restful, but necessary. But all these different types of rest that help fuel you and help repair you. But that this is where sometimes when people start to do those actions that they're finding that it's not working as they thought, and it's often because that same pressure that comes from those shoulds and expectations they're now applying to their recovery and to their rest. And hands up, I did that. Like, I should get well quickly because I need to get back to work, and I should get back to work because, I need that money, to provide for my family. And whilst there were some realities to that, there were some values behind that, that pressure was not helping me benefit from those actions of recovery that I needed to be able to do those things that mattered to me. So yeah, just something to be mindful of, that shoulds can still appear when we're doing the things that are of value and importance. So it's still important to do this internal work as well. So that's why sometimes too, you often hear, or you may have experienced, like you've taken a couple of weeks break from the stressors. Often that might be work for people like you, or maybe having a weekend away with girlfriends, from your family and work. That even that couple of weeks or a couple of days isn't enough for a variety of reasons, but also because as soon as we're back, we're applying that pressure on ourselves, that striving, that expectation, that weight that we're carrying from those shoulds is still there. And that's why a lot of the recovery literature and research and evidence base really encourages the importance of working on these internalized factors that could be contributing to that chronic stress and burnout, like the shoulds. Is that the shoulds just, they don't allow us to really stop, even if we are resting. And I'm sure you feel this, you notice this, that, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. So you might be engaging in a restful activity like going for a hike, or spending time with a friend, or, playing with your children. But then there's this expectation that I should be doing something else. So rest is never something that we actually get. And I found this when I, started to, even before I burnt out, and I was starting to break the habit of feeling guilty for lying on the couch and watching TV, and something I inherited from my family culture, and they would have, inherited from, culture, so not to blame or point fingers to anyone, but that I wanted to break it because I noticed it wasn't helpful for me. So learning to allow that rest and let go of the shoulds was really important, because yeah, it's often that burnout and chronic stress is comes about because we become exhausted from that constant expectation, that constant voice saying, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And so we don't get that real benefit of rest, or even that, and I hear this time and time again, that, and I was there too, because again, I learnt it from my family culture, is that rest needs to be earned. You need to do everything else on your to-do list, strive and get that done, then you can rest. But the reality is, especially in this modern world, but I think for it's never ending. There's so much expectation that we live with now, and we see it so often because of social media about how other people are coping or dealing, and we only see the perfect picture, that those expectations, that to-do list just continues to grow. So waiting for rest to be earned. It will never be earned in that rule book way, but adding it, allowing it to be there. And I spoke more to resting and this phenomena in my recent solo episodes, so check those out, the ones with rest in the title, where I speak to this more. But I just wanted to link that these shoulds that are based on our expectations that we get from the outside are feeding into this exhaustion, is keeping us unwell. And so a very important part of taking care of ourselves and preventing and recovering from burnout is addressing these shoulds. So before we move to, because I'm sure you might be primed with, I want to just learn, how do I let go of these shoulds? Like, I hear you, Shannon, like I want to get rid of them. Like, let's move on. But before we do, because as I said, awareness is really important. It's part of the step of letting go, stepping back from our shoulds, not letting them run our life anymore. So just bear with me one more second, or maybe a bit more than a second. But I just wanted to pause again and actually just look a little bit deeper into those midlife shoulds, because this midlife stage of life for women in this modern world does bring about some colliding of many shoulds, as well, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to read out a few that I hear from the midlife women I get to, walk their journey with coming home to themselves, to move beyond burnout and chronic stress and move into a more hopefully sustainable and connecting and meaningful life. I want to share with you what they've shared with me. And I just want you to take a moment, maybe close your eyes, or just let them land. Don't analyze, just let them land and see what syncs and connects with maybe your midlife shoulds. Okay, so I'm just looking at my list. I should be coping better by now. I'm 40, like I should be. Or I'm 50, whatever it might be. I shouldn't need this much rest. I should be grateful for all that I have. I should be able to juggle this. That woman on Instagram, look, like she could do it all. Or my cousin over there, she's managing, she looks happy. I shouldn't feel so resentful or angry. I should hold it together. I should be able to hold it all together. And that one I mentioned before, I should have it all together by now. I'm 40 something. So if one of those felt familiar, you are not alone. There are many, many midlife women, and I'm sure many other people across different age groups experience this too. It's one of the things, and we have many things in common as human beings, regardless of culture, race, ethnicity, whatever. We, have some things or a lot of things in common. And this is one of them, the shoulds. And just in case you're feeling some sort of sense of, oh my God, I'm so flawed, I'm so pathetic, or oh my God, I've got so many shoulds. This isn't a personal flaw. If, I just said it before, if it's a personal flaw, then we're all flawed, which we are, but it's not a personal flaw. It's just a reality of being human. And they are outdated rules that you absorbed from your culture, from your family systems. It's not something we're born with. We're not born shoulding ourselves. When we develop the ability to think and to observe our thinking, it's not that, we chose to think this way. It's something that has been inherited, that we have gained through our experiences of the world, of our families, of our friends, of our culture, in however it's shown up in TV, in social media, in news, in whatever. So what I do want to say is these rules are outdated, and we, just like any rule, most rules, we can choose to chuck out and create not necessarily new rules, but new ways of being. I'm just going to pause here for a moment to share something with you. If you've been listening and thinking, I wish I had a space where I could talk about this with people who truly get it, That's exactly why I created the Midlife Reclaimed community. It's a gentle, real, and supportive space for women navigating midlife. Whether you're facing chronic stress, overwhelm, burnout, or simply wanting to reconnect with yourself. We meet for live, weekly support circles, share reflective prompts, and learn together so you can feel seen, heard, and supported as you reclaim what matters most. You don't have to figure it all out alone. Visit shannonaswales.com/midlife-reclaimed-community to join us. Now let's get back to the episode. Okay, we've gotten to the letting go of shoulds, to this action part. So let's have a look at that now. First thing I want to share is that letting go of shoulds is not about, reducing or getting rid of our responsibilities or letting go of our responsibilities. And it's not about lowering our standards, because these are sometimes some things that concern some people when I start to work with them about letting go of their shoulds, that there's a fear or there's a concern that, I can't let go of my responsibilities and I don't want to lower my standards. That still matters to me. But what it does mean is starting to become curious about these expectations and how they impact you. Like, we've been doing a lot of work already around building awareness, really noticing your shoulds without judgment or without analysis. We've just been simply noticing them. And I've been sharing wisdom to help you really get to know them. And that next step is to continue this in order to let go, is be curious about those expectations behind the shoulds that are feeding. Because it could be like, is this what I want to continue to hold? But curiosity is a really important aspect of mindfulness. Rather than judgment, this is wrong or this is good or this is okay. It's just more, let's pay attention to this. Like, is this expectation something that I want to follow? Is this important to me? What is it costing me to be rigid with this should, to actually just let it lead my way and push me and lead me to strive and overextend myself and exhaust and burn me out? So one simple shift that's really important when we notice the should come up, because that's the first sign that we're shoulding, is catching those thoughts. And the first thing we can do is just take a mindful pause. Just notice. And it might be that should, like, why can't I cope? I should be able to cope. Take a pause and ask yourself, what am I expecting of myself right now? It might be even to ask, is this expectation realistic? Is it kind? Is it helpful? Is it supportive? If my friend, my dear friend who cares deeply for me, or whoever else, if they heard me doing this to myself, putting this expectation on myself, what would they say? Another helpful check-in is actually with the body. So when you notice that should, why can't I cope better? Just as an example, listen to the body. What am I noticing showing up right now? Is there a tightness or is there a loosening? Because often if there's a tightness, which often there is, that's a sign of that rigidity, that push, that striving, that nervous system activation, stress. So if we're feeling tightness, that is a sign. I often say to the women I work with, and I consciously continue to tell myself as well, is we need to listen to our bodies more. They hold a lot of wisdom, but often, especially in the Western culture, we've been encouraged to listen more to our thinking minds, our analytical mind, our problem-solving mind, our decision maker, all that. I mean, and there's a role for our thinking mind, don't get me wrong, but there's also a role in our body. So in that mindful pause, you can also, when you notice that should, check in with my body. Is it feeling tight or is it loose? Or is it constricted or expanded? because this will give you wisdom as well as to that curiosity of noticing how the should lands in your body. So, in letting go of shoulds, we need a replacement, not to get rid of the shoulds, but to offer a different way, a different perspective, a different response. So, and this is to help loosen those shoulds, to move from something quite rigid and pushy and striving and exhausting and burnout material into something that feels more looser in the body, feels more like a choice, feels like a more of an option to help your body settle, which also will help you move forward in a way that is more aligned and supportive of you and your health and well-being, and also the things that matter to you. So, what we replace shoulds with is not apathy or selfishness or giving up. It's replacing it with values leading, with choice leading, and I should say, with self respect. So, you may still choose the same actions. Like we might still take that action of showing up and providing care for our family or our clients, whatever that might be, but we show up in a way that's not with self punishment, with that should, but with more value, self respect, and choice. So, values are the quality of our actions. It might look like, so that I should be able to cope better. It might be like we value caring for ourselves, or we value our health. So it's the quality of those coping behaviors that we're judging ourselves with. But it's that, yeah, it's meaningful or important to me to take care of myself. But it's focusing on that rather than the should. So, what's the value behind the should? What is meaningful, rich, or purposeful about my coping? And the meaning might be to take care of myself. It might be the meaning to, well, by looking after myself, I can look after my family. It might be both. And we talk about, or the way I work with values is that they include you in the circle. So if a value identifies caring for others, caring is that quality of action you take. And that if we value caring, that we need to be also included in that picture. So values go in with the actions towards ourselves, but our actions towards others. And when there is more of that reciprocal process within us, that can really support our health and well-being. But values replaces the shoulds. It gives us choice. Hopefully that's making a little bit of sense as well. It's something that is very much infused in the work that I do when I work one-on-one with women, but also inside the community, Midlife Reclaimed. That values comes up a lot. And there's a lot written about it. I take it from Acceptance Commitment Therapy ACT, which is an approach that I readily use. So you can definitely do some own research yourself and really dig into values to help you with letting go of your shoulds. So let's just bring this all together as a package for you to take away. So into your week, and I really encourage you maybe to do this over the next week. So firstly, that self-awareness, and you may just want to stay with this step as well, and then do the next one the next week or things like that. Work with it in your own pace. There's no shooting here. There's no expectation. There's no such thing as perfection. So self-awareness, that's what we first talked about. Notice those shoulds. They are our thoughts. So whenever you notice that shoulding, it might be, I should be able to cope better. Why am I not coping better? It might be, I must be able to take care of and do everything on my list every day. And even if there's an awareness that that's not realistic, if we're still shooting ourselves and still striving to meet that expectation, then there's still work to be done. So notice those shoulds. So bring that mindful awareness. There's no need to judge it, analyze, or change it. Just picking up can be a really important step. And that intention to do that is really great because you're bringing consciousness now to it. It's no longer hidden. Then that next step, we want to bring that curiosity to start gently exploring the expectation behind it. Like, where did this come from? What's the rule here? And again, with curiosity, not with judgment and not with blame or shaming. We're just gently going, where did this come from? What rule book and who gave this to me? And then that third step in starting to let go, is this something I want to continue to carry? What kind of consequences does this have if I keep holding on to this? It might be those questions of, does this expectation help me live in a way that's healthy? Is this realistic? Is this kind? What would a good friend, loved one say if they heard me doing this to myself? What do I think about doing this for myself? Really taking stock, really gently challenging that and checking in with that body. How does it impact my body? What do I notice? Do I constrict? Do I tighten? Or is it loose and relaxed and in expansion? Most of the time, it's not. And then starting to explore what is really meaningful or value around that thing that you're shooting you for, and really locating that quality of that action, what is really meaningful, and moving that into more of a choice that I want to lead with caring towards others and self, but doing so from a very human, very compassionate, kind space that you can't always be meeting our values. We can't always be on top of things, that we do our best to show care to ourselves and others. Values are never about expectations. It's just about guiding our quality of action, finding that meaning behind what's those actions we're taking, and we're letting our values be the motivator rather than the should. And values often help our nervous system to respond in a more relaxed, loosening way, and it helps reduce that pressure and that stress response on our body. So therefore, helping prevent, helping recover from burnout or chronic stress, or helping us move through this midlife period, even if it is with quite a bit of stress at the moment. So yeah, like I mentioned, start, small, pace yourself. That's a previous episode as well. You start with self-awareness, just picking up the shoulds. Then you might move into that second step of gently and curiously looking in and questioning those expectations, and then moving into those values exploration and letting values take over those shoulds, and be the different way in which you respond, that will then help you as you grow that, help you let go of the shoulds. Doesn't mean that the shoulds it will still be around, my shoulds still come out, but less so because I have a replacement that I have nourished and nurtured. I just want to end that midlife is not asking us to try harder. It's actually asking us to step back a little bit. But unfortunately, we live in a society that tries to, with their noise, say something different, but it's asking us to listen. It's asking us to loosen. It's asking us to get rid of that rule book, write a new one. That's, as I say to my midlife clients, that's the BS rule book. Create your midlife values book. And in that more value-led midlife, that often we find that there's more moments of peaceful rest, more moments of loosening and expansion and exploration. There's still going to be moments of stress, don't get me wrong, it's life, it's human, but there's a difference in how we lead. And that's what I hope and want and wish for you. So I hope this has been useful. And if you found it to be useful, I really encourage you to connect with particularly the Midlife Reclaimed community that's really set up to really guide and support and facilitate connection and coming home to ourselves and supporting each other in this midlife. So check that out. But thank you for listening in or watching into this podcast. Make sure you hit like or rate or whatever. Love to know how you found this. But take care of you, and bye for now. Thanks for listening to Midlife Reclaimed. I hope today's conversation has reminded you that you are not alone and that change is possible even in the busiest seasons of life. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, rate, or review the podcast and share it with another midlife woman who might need it. For more resources on navigating midlife stress, overwhelm, and burnout, along with reflective writing prompts and community connection, visit shannonaswales.com. You can also watch full episodes on YouTube at Midlife Reclaimed. Remember, you have permission to slow down, to rest, and to reclaim what matters most. See you again soon.